Hello, and welcome to Blue Team Toolbox. I am your host, Edith Price. This week, in Chapter 3, we'll go over strings and their capabilities, learn a couple functions, and write a simple program. You will need to have Python installed to follow along. I'll leave a link in the show notes that goes over how to install it. I'll also include links to purchase Cracking Codes with Python, our guide through this series. Let's get started. A string is a bit of text. To store a string into a variable, surround that string within single quotes, denoting where the string begins and ends. Here are a few examples. A pair of quotes without text inside them is referred to as an empty string. You can concatenate strings together with the plus operator. Python will combine them exactly as written. Therefore, to add spaces between strings, your strings need to include spaces. In order for the concatenation to work, however, the data types need to be the same. Let's say you only want one part of the string to print, maybe even just one character. This is where indexing comes in. Each character in a string holds a specific position relative to the other characters. Let me show you what I mean. Look at the string hello. Indexing starts at the beginning of the string with a value of 0 and increases by 1 for the entire length of the string. Therefore, H has an index value of 0, E is at 1, all the way to O at index 4. Here are a few examples of how to use this concept. Notice what happened when we attempted to call an index for which there were no value. String indices can be called by using negative numbers as well. -1 is at the end of the string, and the count decreases as you progress to the beginning of the string. I know the thought process can be a bit dizzying, but stay with me. You may not use this concept often, but it sure comes in handy when you need it. A slice lets you print part of a string using square brackets and a colon. The first value is the index where you want to start, and the second value is where you want to end, -1. Let's take a look at the string hello again, this time with a slice of 0 and 3. You will see Python returns values at 0, 1, and 2. Let's play a little bit with this concept. In that last example, the first set of brackets indicate the slice, and the second set of bracket indicates which index of the slice. A little convoluted to get a character, but kind of cool nonetheless. With a slice, you won't get an error if you ask for a value that's not in the string. Python will do its best to return what you're requesting. Slices will also work if you leave out a value. If the first value is empty, Python will assign the index 0. Leave out the second value and Python will return everything after the first value requested. Now that we have a decent handle on strings, let's play with the print function. A function has code that performs some sort of task. In this case, it'll print whatever's inside its braces. Kinda. Here's what I mean. You can link strings and variables, so long as the variable is holding a string. You can use single or double quotes to run the function, just don't mix them up. And here's what I mean by kinda. Sometimes you'll actually want Python to print out a single or a double quote, but Python can't tell where you want them. It thinks it's at the end of the thing to print. Enter escape characters. In this case, we want to use the backslash in front of a quote we want included with our message. A backslash directly in front of the letter N tells Python to print a new line. A backslash in front of the letter T tells Python to press the tab key. So far, we've been working in the idle shell. Now we're going to work inside the file editor. Here, you can write multiple lines of code, save it, and run it anytime. And that's what we're going to do now. At the top of the shell, select File, then New Window. Ta-da! The file editor. All of the code we're going to write is available for download at the No Starch link in the show notes below. In that link is another link for the online diff tool. If you're experiencing difficulties with the code you write and can't quite pinpoint where the issue is, copy your code and the downloaded code to the diff tool. It will spot the difference between both codes and hopefully you will be able to tell where your code is bugging out. Now, in accordance with state law, we will write a Hello World program. First line, enter a hash mark and type a description of what this program does. Press enter. Call the print function where inside the braces we type Hello World. Press enter. Call the print function again. This time we'll put what is your name. The next line will be a variable followed by the assignment operator and the function input. In our last line, we'll call the print function again with a nice to meet you followed by our variable. Let's save it by selecting File, then Save As. You can save this wherever you like. For this example, save it as hello.py. To run the program, go to Run, then Run Module, or just press F5. We're going to break this down a bit so we fully understand what every line is doing. The first line that begins with the hash mark is a comment line. These are your friends. Always comment your code, even when it appears that it is painfully obvious what the code is doing. This enforces good programming habits for the future when it's not so obvious. Since we just covered what print functions do, we can recognize the next two lines print out a message. Each print call will display on its own line. But what's this? Here, we are calling a function called input. There is nothing in its braces because it's waiting on input from a user to enter some text. That text will be stored in the variable. The next line calls the print function again, where we concatenate the variable at the end of the message. If you haven't done so already, run your code. So neat! It's almost like having a superpower. You know a little bit of how to code now. For the last couple weeks, we covered what ciphers are and some basic programming coding techniques. Next week, we'll combine that knowledge and write a program that will encrypt and decrypt a cipher. Ooh, who's excited? Are you excited? I'm excited. This is going to be fun. See you then.